You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Really appreciate you joining me here on our Weight Loss and Wednesday show today, because usually I'm bringing you some topic that has to do with nutrition, exercise, wellness, anti-aging that's going to get the body healthier overall. And as you get healthier, well, then you get to live the life that you want to live. You get to enjoy being in the body that you want to be in and overall feel great. Well, today we're going to take a little bit of a turn, because today I actually get interviewed by John Lee Dumas. John Lee Dumas runs one of the number one business podcasts on iTunes. He's been around since the beginning. His podcast name is JLD, Interviews Entrepreneurs on Fire. John is actually, he's a fellow PC undergrad like myself, but also we connected a couple years ago when I was looking to get into podcasting. And he's really been a mentor to me. He's taught me a lot about starting a podcast. And to be honest, I've been able to now help him a little bit with overall health and wellness and all those great things. So what we want to do is we want to team up, and he interviewed me. He just basically kind of rapid fired some questions at me. I was able to give a lot of answers that maybe I haven't shared before. So this is going to be, I think, a nice little treat, a fun show. I certainly enjoy doing it, and I wanted to be able to pass that information along to you. And also, we've been getting a lot of requests for a little bit longer shows. So people want me to get a little bit more in depth on my philosophy, how I help people in my personal practice, how I help people, whether it's Skype consulting or, how I run labs online, all of those things. And I wanted to share that with you. So really hope that this show resonates with you. Really enjoy being able to do these types of interviews. And if you like it, let me know. Just write into stephencabral.com/ask Cabral, or just stephencabral.com/contact. Feel free to let us know your thoughts. I'd be happy to share more of these interviews in the future if it's something that you like. Thank you once again, and enjoy the show.
Fire Nation in the house, JLD here, and welcome. It's episode 1837 of EO Fire, where I chat with entrepreneurs on fire 7 days a week. And I've created 5 incredible courses, Fire Nation, so that you can master productivity, accomplish goals, crush Kickstarter, and create funnels and webinars that actually convert. They're free and they're waiting for you at eofire.com. Now let's chat with today's featured guest, Stephen Cabral. Stephen, are you prepared to ignite?
I am ready, my friend. Let's do this.
Yes. Stephen is a board certified naturopathic doctor who helps people discover the underlying root causes holding them back from getting well, losing weight, and feeling alive again, even if they believe that they have tried it all. Stephen, take a minute, fill in some gaps from that intro and give us a little glimpse of your personal life.
Yeah, so I am a naturopathic doctor. I got sick many, many years ago, and that's how I got into this profession. I think like a lot of health professionals, you kind of go through your own struggle, and your own struggle allows you to see the world and allows you to see things in a little different way. And then your life, it takes a different direction. Never expected it, never expected to get in this profession. I was a young kid. I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to be a baseball player, all these different things. And then growing up in Medford, Massachusetts, like who becomes a naturopathic doctor? That's unheard of. And then 20 years, not even quite 20 years later, opened up a couple locations in Boston, Massachusetts. We've now completed over 250,000 wellness client and body transformation appointments. And I just love to share this message. So about 18 months ago, I got online and I said, this message, which is just helping a lot of people, it needs to reach a broader audience. And hopefully I can share some value with your audience today.
Well, you are going to, in Fire Nation. Stephen and I actually share a lot of things in common. Number one, we're both alumni of the illustrious Providence College in Providence, Rhode Island. So go Friars. And number two, we've both been in Puerto Rico. Stephen actually invested in himself to come down for a long weekend that I held for just 5 people. So he's been to my home. I've taken him through my funnel fire. We've definitely done some great things. And through that, I was exposed to his genius, which is why I'm so excited to have him on today, because Steve is my guru when it comes to all things health and wellness. I've invested heavily in myself over the years in mentors in the business world, in the health world, and all of them have been amazing. But I am looking forward to my lifelong really guidance from Dr. Cabral here, because this is a guy that's been there, that's done that. And I actually sent my sister to him. So this is family. I sent my sister to this guy because I put myself in his hands. I put my family into his hands because this guy just has it all going. So I'm just excited to talk with you today, Fire Nation, about this incredibly important topic of health and wellness. And specifically, we're going to talk about how Stephen's been able to kind of take all of this knowledge and put it into an incredible book. That book is called The Rain Barrel Effect. So The Rain Barrel Effect. We'll be talking about why he named it that in a little bit. But the important thing for you to know, Fire Nation, is that this is going to be available mid to late Q4. And if you want to get your hands on the first 2 chapters completely for free, which believe me, you do, because there's value bombs galore, just head over to StephenCabral.com/fire. Of course, we'll have that linked up in the show notes, but it's pretty easy to remember, StephenCabral.com/fire. So The Rain Barrel Effect, get the first 2 chapters for free, and you'll be the first to know when the book goes live in mid to late Q4 of 2017. So, Stephen, you have a very unique take on why people get sick and why they become overweight. Can we talk about that? What's the deal?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, that's why, and I'm glad that you brought it up, that's why I invest in myself from a business perspective. And a lot of health professionals and health practitioners, I recommend they do the same. And the reason is that you have a message that gets overpowered right now, and you need to find a way to get that out. And as health professionals, we don't know how to do that. Guys like yourself, EO Fire, John Lee Dumas, you're the experts, and we need to go to you. And a lot of times we don't do that because we get caught up in all of our health and we say, oh, well, we don't want to try to do these marketing-based things. But I'm telling you right now. So I'm a big believer that there is no such thing as disease. So people say, well, that's ridiculous. That's impossible. How can you say there's no disease? Well, here's the thing. Disease, as we know it, is a couple hundred years old. That came along with conventional medicine, and it came along because then we could prescribe something to mask those specific symptoms. So in my world, it's not okay to mask the symptoms, because if you mask the symptoms, you are setting yourself up not for a year from now, maybe 5 years, 10 years from now, for a second disease, a third disease, and eventually an early death, or worse, you end up living until you're 80 years old, 90 years old, but you're decrepit come age 50 years old. That's not okay. So here's the thing. A disease is simply a set of symptoms that we give a name to, and we give a name to it so that we can put a code on it, so that we can prescribe medication, and then people feel like, okay, my doctor figured out what was wrong with me. They didn't figure out what was wrong with you. They gave it a name of those symptoms. So for example, one example would be this. You have high cholesterol or high blood pressure, any of the highs, okay? Or you have an autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis. Here's what happens. Rheumatoid arthritis, okay, you have inflammation of the joints. You have an imbalanced immune system. Rheumatoid arthritis means nothing. The inflammation, why that immune system is in balance, is what's important. If you have high cholesterol, high blood pressure, you go to your doctor, you're going to be put on a statin or a beta blocker or calcium channel blocker. You're going to be put on something for the rest of your life. If you come off of that drug, what happens? The disease comes back, right? Because nothing was ever done to treat the underlying root cause imbalances. And we know that this is happening every single day, but our medical system is not set up to support people on their journey to health and wellness. So we have our untrained doctors, very caring doctors. There's nothing wrong with allopathic doctors. There's nothing wrong with conventional medicine. It's a beautiful thing when it's needed for acute care. But if you're talking about a chronic condition, a chronic non-life-threatening condition, meaning not you didn't have a heart attack, you didn't have a stroke. If that's happening, yes, you go to the emergency room and you thank God, you thank everything that you're able to get that great care. But if it is a chronic disease, dis-ease, as I like to call it, with that hyphen there, you need to seek out what those underlying root cause imbalances are.
Now, I love this. And just for our listeners, what is a couple examples of acute care?
So yeah, that's a great question. Acute care would be like a 70-year-old person, and they have bilateral pneumonia, which just means their lungs are filling up with fluid. Could you treat that with natural-based medicine? We'll call it naturopathic medicine, whatever you want to call it, okay? Yes, you could. But would it be smarter and safer to go to the emergency room to see someone who's able to pretty much like 99% of the time save that person with fluid in their lungs? Yes. A heart attack, that's acute care. A fever of 106, like very, very high, not 101. So a good example, this is a good example. So a fever, we're taught right now to suppress a fever. 99, 100, 101, better bring that fever down in kids and adults. But that's not the truth, because our bodies create their own fever. The body's not messing up. It creates that so that we can speed up the flow of white blood cells, that if we increase our core temperature, it kills viruses, kills bacteria, kills disease. So when you get to a certain point, that's acute care, meaning like if your life is in danger, let's say you have a staph infection, you got an infection and that infection's traveling up to your heart, go get acute care. Go to the emergency room. When you have to go to the emergency room, essentially that's acute care. And so what I want to say is I studied literally all over the world, India, Sri Lanka, China, Europe, the United States. And the reason I did that is because I'm the biggest skeptic in the world. It took me a decade to get well. And I simply said this, whoever's right, like any type of medicine, I studied Ayurvedic, traditional Chinese, all over the world. And I said, whoever is right, that's what I'm going to practice. What I found was this, every form of medicine is right. It's just not right for every person at exactly the same time. So you need to know how to help yourself. And I need to be able to not put people in a specific box, but just point them in the right direction. That's what I try to do.
Fire Nation, there are over 77,000 man-made chemicals in the environment. We're talking from cosmetics, from drinking water, plastics, like you name it, you're getting bombarded. And you might be asking yourself a couple things right now. Like one, how does JLD know that? He's just a podcaster. And number two, this Dr. Cabral, like he sounds pretty smooth on the microphone. How is that even possible? How is he so good on the mic? Well, the answer is one and the same, and that is the Cabral concept. I've learned everything that I know pretty much about this area through the Cabral concept, and Dr. Stephen Cabral here, my guest, has become amazing behind the microphone and articulating himself because he does a daily podcast about all of this stuff we're talking about today called the Cabral concept. He's over 600 episodes. So he's not going to catch up with me. That's fine. You know, he started a couple of years later, but he is rocking it every single day. It is the one podcast that I don't miss. It's him on the microphone, 10 to 15 minutes every single day, dropping value bombs about these things that we're talking about here today. His titles are perfect for you to go through and pick the ones that apply to you. And he even does these things where you can email in questions and he answers them on his Q&A show. So definitely check out the Cabral concept. Is how I became knowledgeable about this topic and how Stephen Cabral became very articulate about explaining himself on this topic. So the Cabral concept, and we talked a little bit about this, Stephen, about how, you know, disease is something not to be treated. This kind of goes against the current philosophy. And one area that you've always kind of imparted upon me and your listeners of your show is about inflammation. So can you kind of get into that a little bit right now?
Absolutely. So, you know, the big thing is this, is that you can't pretend your symptoms or your disease doesn't exist, right? We can't stick our head in the sand. That's not a possibility either, because then something will get worse. So there's no doubt about it. So you have two options. You can go the conventional medicine route, or you can go the natural route. The conventional medicine route is going to help you mask the symptoms. Think of it this, it's just basically playing peekaboo. I have a 3-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old daughter. When they're little, you put your hands over your face, you take them away. They really think that you disappeared for a second, then you came back, right? So like, that's what masking the symptoms does. You take the statin, your cholesterol goes down. But what about the reasons? What about the things that cause the high cholesterol? They didn't go away. They're just now causing havoc in another part of the body. And so you have to treat treat it. You can't pretend it isn't there. My recommendation, though, is that this stuff is not difficult if you start to look into it, and there's the underlying root causes. Now, one of the symptoms, though, for almost every disease named to man, it would be hard right now to think of a disease or health issue or weight loss issue, because weight loss is one of the same. Just keep in mind, if you're trying to lose weight right now, forget about losing weight. It's too hard. Think about getting your body healthy. If you get your body healthy, you will lose weight.
Yes.
A healthy body, it can't be overweight. It's physically impossible to be healthy and overweight. I don't care what anyone says. That's not possible. And inflammation is a big reason why. So here's the thing. Inflammation right now, we're treating it. It's popular, right? Turmeric, curcumin, aloe vera, cat's claw, DGL, like all these things are great. They are. And I don't want anybody to suffer either. So will I use things like turmeric and like the phospholipid-based curcumin? Absolutely. But here's the thing. I'll use it in the short term so someone doesn't have to suffer and they don't have to take NSAIDs and other drugs instead. But what I want to understand is this. The inflammation is there for a reason. And we're not going to treat inflammation with natural health, meaning like with turmeric, like we would with Advil. Okay? That doesn't make sense. That's called green medicine. And there's a lot of doctors doing that. And again, is that better than using Advil? Yes. But you're still not trying to figure out, you're still not going deep enough. Why is the inflammation there in the first place? And if we start to look deeper, you mentioned it earlier. And you said 77,000 plus man-made chemicals in the environment. Cosmetics. The average woman right now is wearing over 28 cancer-causing carcinogens in moisturizer and SPFs they put in every day, and hair products and shampoos and plasticizers and waters. I'll tell you this right now. The reason that I wrote the Rain Barrel Effect is this, and it's because I watched this video by the Environmental Workers Group, and I just want to say this, that this message is not mine. The reason I do a daily podcast, the reason I try to get this out there is that I didn't make any of this up. I assimilate this information. I'm passionate about it. I want to get the message out. It's not mine to save. It's not mine to try to charge people for. All this information should be out there to people. And when I saw this video by the Environmental Workers Group, and it said they tested 10 Americans, and those 10 Americans weren't even born yet. They were fetuses that were developing in the fetal cord blood. They tested 420 markers that were all chemicals that cause cancer. The average was 272 in those 10 unborn children. Oh. So children are coming into this world, babies are coming into this world with 272 cancer-causing carcinogens. Now, can you imagine if they tested all 77,000? They tested 420. So this is inexcusable, but it's also inescapable. So what I'm saying is you can't get overwhelmed by this. You can't get overwhelmed by it. We can only do our best, but there's also a lot we can do to live a long, healthy life.
Well, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that gets me fired up. And you can see how passionate Dr. Cabral is about this foundation for very obvious reasons. And excuse me, you talked about the accumulation of toxins, internal and external, and your body's actual threshold. So, what can we do now as humans, walking around? I mean, I was in New York City the other week and I was just like walking around. I'm like, oh my God, Dr. Cabral's in my head right now. I'm thinking about all these toxins I'm breathing in right now. And I'm like, should I go into Barnes and Noble? And what should I do? And what can we do as humans, with all these toxins everywhere? What are some steps? What do you recommend?
So that's the thing. You can become overwhelmed by it. And just keep in mind, there's a journey to everything, right? And just like you were saying, I've done a podcast every day and I learn from the best, right? I learned from you. That's the truth. So here's the thing. Anything worth doing well is worth doing really poorly in the beginning. And my first 100 podcasts, probably not the greatest thing in the world. I try to produce my best content, but I didn't have my voice. The same thing goes for your health. The same thing goes for weight loss. You just need to put one foot in front of the other and expect that you're not going to be perfect right away. You get on a nutrition plan, an elimination diet. You test your food sensitivities. You do these things and you still mess up. Well, that's part of the journey. Hopefully you're a faster learner than I am. It took me quite a while to, really get it down pat. But what I learned is this, is that you can't get overwhelmed. I walk outside my office right now in Boston and the train's going by. There's brake dust in the air. I can't even see it. There's, pollution. There's all of these things. And I say, I can't control that. But what I can control are the foods that I put in my mouth. Yep. Maybe a handful of just high quality nutritional supplements that I use. And then I try to exercise. The things that people forget are the little things like sweating. So we're in a very comfortable world, for the most part. I mean, some parts of the world we forget. And I've worked in clinics in India where I've slept on literally a mattress on the floor
with no shower at all, but a hose that you would use with a bucket for your shower. I have that knowledge now, and I will always appreciate that, but that was hard. So now I can, again, this is appreciation, but what I want to say is our lives have gotten comfortable. We have air conditioning when it's hot. We have heat when it's cold. And when our bodies don't have to adjust, when they don't have to fight, when we don't have to sweat anymore, we can't get these toxins out. So my highest recommendation, and I've given you this, and I give it to every single private wellness client, is this: that you can do a morning smoothie of 1 to 2 cups of low glycemic wild blueberries, or just berries that are low glycemic. You put in a handful of spinach. You might use something like an all-in-one powder, which is your all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the antioxidants that you need for the day. Maybe use a greens powder of your choice. My thing is this: you don't have to go down one path. You don't have to be the keto guy, the paleo guy, the whatever guy. What you can do is you can take the best of everything. I take the best from functional medicine, and I take the best of whole food. So if I can recommend one thing, it's whatever goes into your body and whatever you put on your skin, as in oils, moisturizers, those types of things. So that's why I talk about my new book. But I want to give that information as much as I can to people for free.
I love all of this. And one of my favorite recommendations that I've implemented, thanks to you, is my sauna. Like, I got the Therasage sauna, it was like $800. So it's not a small investment, but it's portable, and I was able to set up in my studio, pretty quickly. And so now I went on this process of, 4 to 5 days a week. I was doing this 20 to 30 minute infrared massage, and just I was sweating, and then, your head's out of it, but the rest of your body's in there, and I was sweating, and I could just feel like my pores opening up, and all of the toxins, it just felt, like I was imagining them, just kind of pouring out. So that kind of allowed me to stick it out for the whole 20 to 30 minutes. And I just had this very pure feeling after I was done. And that's actually what I miss most about not having access to my studio down in Puerto Rico, is I'm like, I got to get back to my infrared massage. And I'll tell you, talking to my friends down in Puerto Rico, they're complaining about a lot of things, very rightfully so. I mean, the homes are devastated, no power, no water. But I keep hearing them complain over and over again about how they have no air conditioning. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot of things to complain about, like no drinking water. But listen, what do you think the people did for the last 75,000 years that didn't have air conditioning? Like, somehow they survived, somehow they fell asleep at night, and they sweated a little bit, and it was okay. So be comfortable with being uncomfortable, Fire Nation. Like, that's it. Like, my sister's like, I don't like to take pills. I don't like the taste of that green powder. I'm like, toughen up, sis. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you're putting amazing nutrients in your body. Like, you're putting amazing supplements in your body. Like, I don't care what you want to do, like where you don't want to do. Like, you need to do what's right for yourself. So you're hearing me get fired up and passionate. You're hearing Dr. Cabral get fired up and passionate, because that's what it's all about. And this stuff and more, again, Fire Nation, is in the Rain Barrel Effect over at StephenCabral.com/fire. Get the first 2 chapters for free. We got more stuff coming your way when we get back from thanking our sponsors. I consider myself a lifetime learner. In fact, I spend 2 to 3 hours per day consuming content, but because I have a lot on my plate, I'm not always able to sit down and read a book or a magazine, and that's why I love Audible. Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more. So whether you're in the mood to learn or to tune into some entertainment, Audible has you covered. And because you own your books, you can access them anytime, anywhere, and from almost any device. Not sure what book to choose? One of my favorites is Choose Yourself by James Altucher. You should check it out, and don't worry, thanks to the great listen guarantee, if you don't like it, you can swap it out for a new one. If you're not already an Audible member, you can get a free audiobook with a 30-day trial at audible.com/fire. That's Audible, AUDIBLE.com/fire for a free audiobook with your 30-day trial. If you're not much of a designer but are looking for ideas for your next logo, website design, or even your new business cards, then Design Crowd can help. Design Crowd gives you access to over 550,000 creative minds from around the world who will help you come up with your next design. Plus, Design Crowd makes it super simple. All you have to do is submit your brief, and then designers will begin submitting quality designs for you to review, provide some constructive feedback, and you can quickly generate multiple designs that you love and that fit your needs. Why pay expensive fees and wait weeks for an agency to pitch an idea when you can have exactly what you need within just 3 days? Design Crowd is so confident that if you don't like any of the submitted designs, they'll give you your money back. Visit designcrowd.com/fire for a special $100 VIP offer for Fire Nation. That's DESIGNCROWD.com/fire. Dr. Cabral, we are back, brother, and I'm fired up because we got a few more questions that I can't wait to rock and just continue to drop value bombs for Fire Nation here. And I know a lot of people are saying to themselves, well, wait a second, isn't disease and sickness just genetic? Like, isn't that just a genetic thing? And I'm just like stuck with whatever body I have or whatever genes I have. Like, it's just, I won or I lost the lottery. That's how it goes. Like, isn't that true?
That is the common dogma. And the reason is that it's perpetuated now also by conventional medicine. But the reason is because it's an easy broom you can use to sweep these questions under the rug.
It ain't true, Fire Nation. Spoiler alert.
It ain't true. That's right. So, here's the thing. Like if you have high cholesterol, what's easier to say? Okay, let me teach you about nutrition. Let me teach you about exercise. Let me teach you about these nutritional supplements. Let me teach you about sweating, like all these things. That there's no time for that in conventional medicine. And again, this isn't the doctor's fault. This is how the system is set up. So let's not blame the doctors. Let's blame the system. But the truth is this, genetics do play a role in it. They really do matter. It was very important that I figured out my genetics. But as the functional medicine saying goes, genetics loads the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger.
Ooh, I love
okay?
That.
So you are susceptible to certain things. No one in my family gets debilitating psoriasis and those types of things. But everybody, both my parents and all 4 of my grandparents got rheumatoid arthritis. Now, when I was 18 years old, my thumb started hurting, my fingers hurt, my elbow hurt. I had rheumatoid arthritis at 18. I don't have it today. My genes say if you let yourself go, if you don't do the things that aren't always easy, the easy things are, grabbing a sandwich, grabbing some pizza. Those are the easy things. So I'm not saying that you can't do that every once in a while. Believe me, at least once a week. I have an enormous bowl of pasta. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I grew up with it and I like it. But I got myself healthy. I do the things on a daily basis and then I get to be a little bit more flexible. So genetics matter. They do matter. But what happens is there's essentially 3 triggers for you getting sick. So there's the genetic predisposition to something. Everybody has something, okay? But the second one is this. Something goes wrong with the gut, with the digestive system. Intestinal permeability, leaky gut, bacterial overgrowth, candida overgrowth, parasites, H. pylori. These are all things that everyone knows. Like like Dr. Wise, this is conventional as well as natural. And 80% of your immune system lies along your gut wall. Okay, so if the majority of your immune system is around the 28 feet of digestive tract, it's probably a pretty good indicator that you should look there first. Now, it's not always, but you should look there first, okay? So then there's also the accumulation of toxins that we've been talking about from the environment. There's also the stress that you have in your life. There's also a hormone imbalance. There's lack of sleep. There's improper food combining. There's all these different things. What happens is that's what the book's all about. It's filling up your rain barrel. So why do some people get disease? Why do some people not get disease? Why can some people drink 3 scotches a night, sleep 5 hours, and they're like rock stars the next day? Well, great genetics, no doubt about it. But there's a lot of other parts of their life that they're also not being exposed to all these different stresses. They might just not be as anxious as you, not as stressed as you, so they just don't get that rain barrel filled up. Remember, the big thing is this, is that as you're leading to these things, the rain barrel's filling up, but you never see it because all these things are internal. That's the big thing. They're internal. We look for external symptoms, but that's not the important thing is you need to look internally. And then the third thing is there's some trigger. Okay, something happens in your life, typically a stressful time, a loss of a job, a loss of a family member, a divorce, a breakup. That's what I see. When that happens, the alopecia happens a week or month or 2 months later. The rheumatoid arthritis, the autoimmune disease, the migraine headaches, the dizziness, the Meniere's disease. Those are the 3 steps that I see in my clinical practice. 250,000 client appointments. We have so much data. And again, that's what I see happen.
Genetics loads the gun. The environment pulls the trigger. Fire Nation, recognize that and then visualize that rain barrel that Dr. Stephen Cabral is talking about. Because there might be your best friend. He might be drinking those scotches and sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, and he seems like he's still rocking in the world. But guess what? That doesn't mean that you can do the same thing. And that doesn't actually mean that stuff's going good within him either. Like his rain barrel is probably starting to get pretty filled up, whether he knows it or not. So let's start talking solutions, Stephen. How do we correct our current health issues?
So I think now that we know that the way that we get sick, the way that we become overweight, and the reason we don't live as long a life as we should is that we accumulate toxicity. Okay. This is how, in a nutshell, this is how I help people get well. I find out what they have too much of in terms of toxins. And then I find out what they have too little of in their deficiencies. I remove the toxins and I replace the deficiencies. In a nutshell, that is how you transform your life. That's how you lose the weight. That's how you get well. And that's how you have more energy, vitality, and zest for life than you ever thought possible. I mean, that's the truth. I feel better today than I did as a teenager 20 plus years ago.
Me too.
It shouldn't happen, right? That shouldn't. Everybody says that we should be getting old. Oh, we should be getting tired. And most people are. That's the norm. So what we're talking about right now isn't the norm. So what do we do? Well, we have to start to forget about all this talk about always addition. You need to keep adding. A lot of times it's subtractive. What do we have to remove from our life in terms of stress, relationships, lack of sleep, toxins that we're exposed to, foods that are improper for our bodies, eating at the wrong time, eating too much? All of those things is what I look at specifically. And you can I'm of course a huge proponent of a 7-21 day or a 7-14 or 21 day detox. Why? You just need a time in your life to relax, calm down, and let your body begin to regenerate and rebuild. It knows how to heal you. As a naturopathic doctor, my job is never to treat the disease. My job is to give your body everything that it needs through whole food and functional medicine so that it can do its job. That's the bottom line. I support your body, and that's all you need to do. You need to support your body as well.
Fire Nation, your body is amazing. Give it the opportunity, give it the ability to heal you. And you have to empty that rain barrel. Now, before we move on to the last topic we're going to get into, let's kind of maybe talk quickly about the Big Five, because this was something that really blew me away. I did the Big Five lab tests, which was the hair, the saliva, the tube blood, and the urine. And it was all done at home. Sent it back in. Then I had a 90-minute consultation with you. You put me on a 28-day protocol that has literally, again, made me feel better at 37 than I felt at 13, 15, 24. Seriously. Now, why is that? Well, because my mother, God bless her, she just didn't know any better, sent me to school on a toaster strudel. That was my breakfast. I would eat a toaster strudel. I would actually take that cake frosting and put it on my toaster strudel. And then I would eat it. And that would be my nutrients until lunch, which would then be, something that I would choose out of the crappy food at my high school. How did I even survive? I mean, I was an athlete. Like, what was my body actually running on? Your body's amazing, Fire Nation. And now that I'm giving it, this incredible daily nutritional supplements, and I'm taking my greens powders, both of which Dr. Cabral has personally crafted himself. It's a great product called Equilibrium. We'll have it up in the show notes as well. You have to recognize, put the right stuff in your body. So talk quickly, Dr. Cabral, about the Big Five, and then we're going to move on to the last topic today.
Yeah, and I loved hearing about those toaster strudels because in my house, we didn't even drink juice in the morning. We drank Kool-Aid, like literally red dye Kool-Aid. And then I would grab either Fruity Pebbles or Captain Crunch, or I would grab a raspberry coconut Twinkie, which were like my favorite. And that would be my breakfast. But it's not our parents' fault. No, they didn't know better. Like, again, you can't blame them. You can't blame anyone. And that's why, you could be listening to this at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old and just say, I've been messing up my whole life. It's not about that. None of us knew. I mean, and again, we can't be blamed for things that we don't know. But once you start to learn, once you start to know, that's when you start to make the changes. So now the lab tests are truly amazing. It's how I finally got well. So people ask me, quite a bit. And sorry, we're going to have to contend with the Boston sirens in the background.
It's Boston, Massachusetts, baby. I love it.
Urban work and living. That's right. So, but the big thing about these 5 lab tests is that you can actually see what the underlying root causes are in your body. Okay. I know that I'm not going to be able to work with every person in the world, and that shouldn't even be the intention. What my goal is to give people the ability to take back control of their health. That's what it's all about. So here's the thing. If you want to test your gut function, if you want to look for leaky gut, intestinal permeability, candida overgrowth, bacterial overgrowth, what your vitamin levels are, like what if you have low B6, B12, B5? Well, you can test that. It's a simple urine test called the organic acids test. And again, if you have a great functional medicine practitioner in your area, they could probably do it as well. And you can run your food sensitivities. And that's the amazing thing. We're eating foods right now that are healthy for one person and not healthy for us. Well, if you eat that food on a daily basis, it doesn't make you bloated necessarily, but it causes inflammation. So we say, okay, inflammation isn't something to be treated, but the food sensitivities are. You can test your inflammation levels actually with omega-3 testing. We did there's many labs that you can do, but we do a hair tissue mineral analysis to look for heavy metal load. Say you have high levels of aluminum, high levels of mercury, high levels of cadmium. All of those things can lead to autoimmune-based issues like Hashimoto's. So what I'm trying to say is this. You can run absolutely amazing lab tests. We'll link them up if you'd like in the show notes as well. All I want you to do is this. I want you to start to learn more about your options, because your only option isn't to be put on the pharmaceutical drug. It's not to take one opinion. There is a way to treat the underlying root causes. And when you do that, you can begin to live the life you always wanted. I never wanted to be the sick kid. I used to walk up 6 stairs in my house. My heart rate would be 150 beats per minute.
So
I'd have to literally lie down on the stairs. And something was wrong with me, and no medical doctor, not even the best doctors in Boston, could figure it out because my blood work looked okay. That was when I knew my survival, my life, no one could figure out what was wrong, was only going to happen through non-conventional means. And I'm so happy, so blessed, so grateful that I met other functional medicine doctors, which was so much more rare 20 years ago. And they led me down this path. And again, just I want to pay it forward. That's basically what it's all about.
And you are doing that, brother. You are doing that with the Cabral concept, which again, Fire Nation is a phenomenal podcast. So you, Fire Nation, are going to go and subscribe to that. If you care about your health and wellness, get over there, the Cabral concept. And Stephen, Fire Nation knows they're heading over to stephencabral.com/fire to pick up the first 2 chapters of The Rain Barrel Effect for free. And again, to learn about when the actual launch goes live and all the other bonuses you're going to have for people that are doing awesome things. And just take us home now. What do you want Fire Nation to really walk away with in these last couple of minutes that we have here? Break it down.
Well, I want people to leave just with a message of hope. Whether you took some action points away is great, but I want you to know that there is no one action you're going to take tomorrow that's going to be that silver bullet. And I know that that's not what you want to hear. But it's the truth. I'm only interested in sharing with you the truth. And if you understand the truth, you won't be so disappointed that you don't lose the 20 pounds tomorrow, that you don't overcome the high cholesterol, high blood pressure, autoimmune disease, psoriasis, skin issue, bloating, gas, any of those things tomorrow. But if you do understand that you can actually recover within a period of typically 3 weeks to 12 weeks, you understand there's a little bit of a process, that you can get well. And if you know that you can get well, if you know that someone in your exact position who's gone through what you've gone through right now has gotten better too, and you know that you can achieve those same results, I hope that you use that motivation to then begin moving forward. What is moving forward? Moving forward is typically for most people collecting more information. So whether it's the Rain Barrel Effect, whether it's my podcast, whether it's other great podcasts, you see a local functional medicine doctor, start exploring your options. I just met with a woman yesterday in my office crying her eyes out as we were starting our consultation. Not an ideal way to do a follow-up. I didn't know what was going on. After about 5 minutes, she settles down and she says to me, my entire life is different. And this is 28 days later. And this is not going to say every single person. She's 68 years old. People think like 68, okay, life's over, all those things. No, 68 to me is like, this is now your prime years.
Yeah.
You've worked hard and now get to enjoy them. But remember, getting to enjoy your prime years starts today. The autoimmune disease has already started. The cancer has already started. These things have already started, but they can all be reversed. Nothing is permanent. Push it back, get it out of your body, clean it up. I'm telling you right now, if you do that, you will live a life that you didn't even believe was possible.
Stephen, I have chills, brother. Thank you for sharing your journey with Fire Nation today. For that, we salute you, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stephencabral.com/courses.